Welcome to Hollywood and Sip, as I am now calling it. I'm your host, Kat Smith, and with me today is Frankie Bourne, who is a local Sonoma Valley musician. And we're going to chat today about his new album and his music. And welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And let's see. So how are you adapting being a performer in a shelter in place?
It's strange. I wouldn't really say I'm adapting so much as dealing, but I kind of jumped on the live stream train. A lot of artists moved to the live stream platform of going live on Facebook and Instagram, performing, and that's now kind of become a saturated market because everybody's doing it. So I held off for a while, and then we did one last Saturday. My bass player and I did a duo live stream to Facebook and Instagram, and actually a lot of people ended up watching and really enjoyed it. So we're actually doing it again tomorrow. I don't know if this interview will air by then, but we're going to try to make a thing of it on Saturdays.
Oh, cool. So around what time will you be doing it on Saturdays?
It's always at 3 p.m. West Coast.
Awesome.
So on Facebook and Instagram. So.
And then do you have out a virtual tip jar?
I do. I put up the Venmo and PayPal address, and we've gotten a few tips, which has been great, and a lot of positive feedback, people watching. It's kind of cool, actually, because normally if you play a show, for example, if I play in town at like Hot Monk Sonoma or something like that, you have the built-in crowd who's there, whoever shows up, and that's great. But with the social media platform, the interesting thing is we're confined to that now because of the situation. But at the same time, it's almost broadened the audience because people were watching from all over the country,
right,
in ways that maybe they normally wouldn't have been if you just live stream when COVID-19 is not happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting.
So I found you because of your new album, which released in January, and it's called Wildcards.
Yes.
There it is. What is your style of music, and what can we expect from the album?
So the style of music has always been, I guess, most easily described as a form of Americana music, which is kind of roots music that's very popular in the past decade, with a little bit of an alternative indie rock kind of merging between the two genres. So it's not very specifically Americana, and it's not very specifically alternative rock. It kind of borders the two a little bit. So it's like a rootsy 90s alternative rock, early 2000s kind of sound. I just call it rock and roll, but if you want to get specific, I could say all that.
Yeah. And we'll find out because you're going to play us a song.
Yeah, when I play this, it'll be a little more intimate acoustic. The band sound on the record is much more a rock and roll album. It's very big and studio production wise. It's got a lot to it. But I like being able to walk both lines, because if I play with my full band, it's a rock and roll show. If I played by myself or just with my bass player, like we're doing on the live streams, it's more of a kind of acoustic duo, more of like a winery atmosphere, kind of campfire rock.
Yeah. Is your bass player in the same room as you when you're doing these live streams?
We maintain about 6 feet. We're doing it on this back patio in Sonoma, and this terrace that had good sound. So
cool.
We're maintaining social distance, but still physically with one another. Yeah.
So what is your process like from writing the music to producing to releasing an album?
It's never happened one way for me. I used to be much more all about lyrics and writing lyrics as a starting point, because I always enjoyed writing. I studied screenwriting and poetry and literature in college, so that was always my starting point. And then as I got better at guitar and I could write better pieces of music, things start to marry one another. And now I'm at the point where I've excelled so much, I think, as a musician playing guitar, that I get lazy about the lyrics, and I have all these compositions that then I need to go back and finish. So I would say in the past 2 years, my process is more, I'll come up with music, and I'll actually even envision the whole arrangement. This is here, this is here, this is here, and the whole thing really comes together with two bookends, and then it's a matter of filling in the gaps with words and phrases and stories. So
really cool.
Yeah.
And then what is your musical background? Where did you get your start?
So I grew up in West Marin, which is very Grateful Dead obsessed, and not that I'm the biggest fan, but I've always been in that kind of musical California Bay Area sound, kind of 70s, late 60s, 70s rock kind of atmosphere, I guess I would say. So I was always listening to my dad's music, and I got a set of drums when I was about 11 and taught myself the drums. Not that I was a very accomplished player, but very self-taught, I guess, to answer your question. And then I switched to guitar when I was about 17. So I got to guitar kind of late. And it's always just been a self-taught thing. I've taken lessons. Musical theory to me is like math. I've never been good at math. It's interesting because I understand it in a lot of ways, and at the same time, it's like light years ahead of me. So I find my way by ear in a lot of ways. But as a guitar player, for the most part, I'm pretty self-taught. It's just a matter of like repetition and perseverance more than anything. So.
And not that we expect you to sound like anyone in particular, but if you were to explain to somebody comparing yourself to a certain band or singer, who would you compare yourself to?
That's a great question, because I was doing so much promo for this album release, trying to come up with examples for that kind of thing for press releases to describe it. And I always kind of get different responses when I ask friends that same question to get some outside input. And my one friend had a pretty good one that I thought. So I'm a big fan of Jackie Green, who's a local singer-songwriter from the Sacramento area. And my buddy said, it reminds me of like an Anthony Kiedis meets Jackie Green, which is the Chili Peppers guy, meets this kind of soulful California Americana guy. I don't know. I've also gotten that it sounds like kind of like this Gin Blossoms late 90s kind of alt rock vocal sound with kind of like a Neil Young guitar. I don't know if that helps at all.
That's awesome.
I'll play for you and you probably disagree.
Okay.
So who knows?
So, well, let's have you play some music. Tell us about the song you're going to play.
Yeah. I got a couple for you. I'm going to do a song called I'm Good Now, which technically 4 songs on the record were put out as an acoustic recording a couple years ago on an EP I did called Valley of Vindication. So this new band album is those 4 songs re-recorded with the whole band, as well as another 8 originals. So the first one I'll play for you is called I'm Good Now, and there's 2 versions of it out now, the new band version on the new album and the older acoustic version. Let me grab this guitar real quick. See where the shot is so I get some good sound for you. Okay, so this song's called I'm Good Now. You remember what I told you that December? I said lay it on me. You didn't hesitate to wait to tell me, surprise me and expel me from your jaded heart. You jaded heart. Now you're breaking me up. You're putting me down. Baby, I'm good now. You're shaking me up and throwing me round. Baby, I'm good now. You didn't know what to do. You left yourself high and cold and silver and gold, little blue. Girl, you know I'm through. You're breaking me up, putting me down. Baby, I'm good now. You're shaking me up, throwing me round. Baby, I'm good now. People, sweet people, they live and they love it. Some don't got time for kissing and hugging. Well, I lost my mind when I first saw her coming. When you make Baby, I'm good now. Baby, I'm good now. And you're breaking me up and throwing me around. Baby, I'm good now. Shaking me up, throwing me around. Baby, I'm good now.
Woo! I need to get the sound effect of applause so it's more than just me clapping.
Yeah, you could sample it in the edit, maybe. Sorry about that phone ring. I'm trying to turn off this text button thing. I don't know why it keeps dinging, but
That's okay. If we had been in the studio, you would have got a phone call anyway. So
yeah.
live radio, live Zoom.
Yeah.
So where have you played around town?
So in Sonoma proper, I've played Hot Monk Sonoma has kind of been my mainstay spot. Since I moved to town, I first moved to town, I started going to the open mic there. My friend Matt Piazza he runs the restaurant as well.
Yeah.
And he and I started jamming at open mic, and I just realized that was totally the spot. And then I got in with Casey Turner, who's a local promoter, and he books me pretty regularly at Hot Monk for almost 5 years now. I also love the Sonoma Speakeasy, and I feel bad because they just reopened, and then this happened.
I
So I was
know.
looking forward to getting back in there, so hopefully soon.
Yeah, worse luck.
Yeah. We where else did we play? We played the Valley of the Moon Vintage Festival in 2018, and then just last year we played the Glen Ellen Village Fair in October, and that was the last band show we've done. We were kind of in a restructure stage, and then this thing happened, so it's kind of a weird time. It's like, we worked almost, I hate to admit this, almost 2 years on this record, and it comes out just in time to not be able to play.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sucks, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah, my next natural question would have been, are you going to tour with the album? And then, of course, you can't right now.
I admittedly was a little behind schedule in terms of all that. We were kind of taking a brief hiatus, and I'm glad I didn't put all this work into booking a huge tour that I would have just ended up canceling like so many people. So it was kind of funny. I was mad at myself that I didn't do more to put shows together for the spring. It was going to be all about the summer. And then sure enough, I don't know if you call that a blessing in disguise, but
Right.
didn't happen. So.
Well, before you play your next song for us, do you want to tell us who your bandmates are?
Sure. So my bass player is my good friend Matt Pasquale. He played in a band called Gravity Hill out of Santa Rosa for a very long time. And he's been with me since 2016. And he's the one I play with on the live stream. So he'll be playing with me tomorrow at 3 o'clock on Instagram and Facebook. And then our guitar player is Sunil Sharma from Santa Rosa. I guess he's originally from Hermosa Beach, but he's a really talented lead guitar player. He plays with Allison Harris, who's a singer-songwriter, I think out of Sebastopol as well. And that's kind of the group right now. We're kind of restructuring, trying to find new drums and bring keyboards back into the mix. But it's difficult as a band. I know this from my time in LA. When I was living in LA, my band was never a steady lineup of people. It was whatever friend was willing to play for $30 that weekend or something, And so when I moved to Sonoma, my prerogative was to build a band that would be my mainstay backing band. That's, their primary project is this project. And I was fortunate enough to do that for a few years. And towards the end of last year, a number of circumstances came into play that the band kind of was a little turbulent in terms of just trying to hold everything together, trying to play shows, trying to get everybody paid. It's hard, And so that's what I meant by the hiatus. We were finishing the album and kind of not really playing a lot of shows at the end of 2019. But yeah, Sunil and Matt are my main guys, guitar and bass.
And just out of curiosity, what brought you to Sonoma?
So like I said, I grew up in West Marin, and I always wanted to come home to the North Bay. I was living in LA in the film industry, and then kind of got tired of the film industry and segued towards songwriting, which I had always done, but I never took it as seriously as I always wanted to. So I started playing shows, and I did my first record in LA. And as great as LA is, it's really hard to make a dent as an original artist with music because there's so many acts at all times. It's such a big city. So my prerogative was to move home to move home to the North Bay and try to be a big fish in a small pond and build a band, like I just said. And my folks ended up moving from our home in West Marin to Florida when I was in LA, and they came back and ended up in Sonoma. So it was basically because my family ended up here that I chose Sonoma, and no regrets because it's awesome. I love it here. It's such a great little, and it's like Hawaii when people are like, oh yeah, you got to check it out. It's like, no, don't come here.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I love it here.
Well, how about one more song and then we'll let you go?
Sure. So this is another song from the new one. This song we released as a single back in November to promote the upcoming release. And I've been playing this song live in Sonoma for a little while now. I think it's one of the better songs. And this song's called Looking Up. Make sure I'm in the camera there. All right. Fell in love with a girl by the ocean. Pretty sure she got swept to say. Deep down to the depths, man. Talking 20,000 leagues. I sailed west at dusk on Sunday. I got close, but I lost control. Glanced back to the lights of the city from the water side of the road. Looking up, waiting on you now to come around. Making me up for the very first time now. So look alive. Fell in love with a girl devotion. She made sense to me. So I thought when I found out what I bought at the Tender Ridges. 23, thinking where you going and where you been. How you gonna spend your time with them? Gone and lost and the weather's grim. Now you're looking up again. Looking up, waiting on you now to come around. Making me up the very first time now. So look alive. Fell in love with a girl by the ocean. Pretty sure she got swept to say. Deep down to the depths, man. Talking 20,000 leagues. I sailed west to dusk on Sunday. I turned left on to Mexico. I glanced back to the lights of the city from the water side of the road. Looking up, waiting on you now. Come around. Making me up for the very first time.
Yay! Well, we have been talking to Frankie Bourne, a local Sonoma Valley musician. New album is Wildcards. Where can people find your music and more about you, and eventually where you're going to be playing live?
Yeah, absolutely. So the new album and all my music is on all the major streaming services. So you can find it on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Amazon, all those places. And my website is just frankieborn.com. And on there, I've got the music streaming, links to all those services, information about upcoming shows once they start happening again. And we have our store up there too with a bunch of band merch, which we've been trying to push to help ourselves get through this time. But I'll mention again that we're playing tomorrow on Facebook and Instagram Live, and hopefully every Saturday at 3:00 moving forward. So
Awesome. And if you've been listening to this on 91.3 KSBY Sonoma, you can also see the video because I'm going to post it on my own website, catnosocial.com/entertainment. Thank you so much for chatting today.
Thanks, Kat. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you for my private concert that will be public soon, but for me, it was private.
Awesome. Yeah, I look forward to watch the YouTube video. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Take care.